Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm going to be flying solo in this video because Geeky Sparkles is actually helping Mama Sparkles with her Christmas orders. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Christmas and Geeky here in a minute or two. But we're going to do a follow-up to the video we did yesterday on Cyberpunk 2077. And mostly we're going to talk about journalists and gaming journalists being absolutely batshit insane. They have so much salt for this game and so much salt for gamers who have had to defend it against dubious journalists for the last 2 years. And they're especially salty because a lot of them didn't get review copies. But there's just some high strangeness around this game, which I think is going to sell incredibly well, by the way. In fact, we're downloading it currently. Bought a copy for Squid King. We'll probably play it on Clownfish TV Gaming. Have to turn off the junk, I think, though, right? So you don't see people's junk when you're running around. But I'm pretty excited about the game. I am, and I'm excited for the creator too, Mike Pondsmith. I've been reading some interviews with him, and he seems like a really solid guy. He really does, and it's so weird to see journalists attack this game and attack this man, given the current political climate. But he does have his own opinions. He's got a lot of opinions, and he doesn't like people to speak for him, for sure. And he's a very talented guy who's created a great world that has survived for decades. Cyberpunk has been around for quite some time, and now we're getting to see a more fully realized version with Cyberpunk 2077, hopefully. But journalists are melting down, and I have to give a hat tip to Black Sage D, and we're going to talk about this, just how crazy this whole thing has gotten, right? Before I get into it, though, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We're over 150,000 subs, guys. Thanks so much for the support. And if you get a chance, check out Geeky's Toy Drive. She's actually buying toys using money from her shop to go buy toys for underprivileged kids. We've been kicking in our own money as well, so even just watching videos helps buy kids toys. And there have been a lot of them this year. 2020 has not been good, obviously. And, it's been tough. It's been tough to see the angel trees full of kids in need, more so than in previous years. So we're doing what we can. Geeky's been very, very busy. If you go to her shop, and I'm going to put a link in the comments, you can help. You can buy some stuff from her shop. She's got her pillows, which were actually our convention stock when we did comic conventions. For years, anime cons, Geeky sold these pillows, and she did really well with it, and it was a lifesaver at the time. She's got some clownfish ornaments, and there's a bunch of pouches here from Mama Sparkles. This is what Mama Sparkles makes. Look at all these. She's got Spider-Man, and she's got all kinds of cool stuff. Pokemon. So all the proceeds. Oh, there's some Daleks. Daleks. Cool. All of the proceeds will go to helping buy more toys for kids as long as we can. The cutoff here is in a couple days, so check that out. So let's talk about this. Again, giving a hat tip to Black Sage D, who sent me some links this morning that, they have come hard for Cyberpunk. That's not, it doesn't have a double meaning, by the way. They have. Games journalists can't stand this game. This game is going to be a watershed moment, I think, for gaming journalism and gamers and influencers, because gamers have been very excited about this game from what they've seen. It's highly anticipated. It's selling really, really well, for sure. And the gaming journalists have taken every chance they could to take a shit on this game for everything. They had a gang that had black gang members, and they said the game was racist. Do I need to point out who is behind this world, right? And he's basically told them to go suck a peach, right? He told them to go suck a peach, and then they were like, oh, well, now it's transphobic. And now we have Sophia Narwitz, who is an actual trans journalist, that she's actually coming out and saying that, no, this is a bunch of bullshit. And it is kind of coordinated. This all seems very coordinated. I'm going to talk about a situation with the quartering. I don't know Jeremy Hambley at all, really. I think he's mentioned us in one or two of his videos over the years. I don't know him. I don't agree with everything he says. You know, but apparently he's on the receiving end of, you know, cancellation or attempted cancellation by journalists who are actually trying to get YouTube involved, saying that he's harassing games journalists. He did a video, I guess, yesterday about GameSpot. The reviewer on GameSpot gave Cyberpunk 2077 a 7 out of 10. And I guess this reviewer is kind of notorious. She's made some other snafus or whatever. But he did a video about it, basically saying she didn't play the game. You know, I think that's a fair criticism. But immediately, every other games journalist, because they hate the quarter, and he's got almost 1 million subs, right? They pounced. They pounced on Twitter. You know, we've got, who's this guy? This guy is co-owner, podcast producer for Press Pause Radio. Piece of shit. There's no reason to allow this vile garbage sphincter of a man to have a platform. We've got this guy here, Jason Wilson, blue check, managing editor for GamesBeat, worked for GamePro, worked for Ziff Davis, actually tagging in the head of gaming at YouTube, and saying, you've got power at YouTube Gaming. The quartering is using YouTube to harass a woman over a game review score. He's done this stuff before. He's also lying. Please use your power to stop it. So the bigger issue, it's not just this one instance. The bigger issue is that, again, this game is a watershed moment, kind of like I think Joker was for movies. I mean, all kinds of hit pieces. And Sophia Norwitz puts this out, you know, that these are all headlines from actual websites by actual quote-unquote games journalists, you know. It's transphobic, Polygon, Daily Dot. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming. Remember to listen to trans people. CBR, how Cyberpunk 2077 perpetuates transphobia. It's an act of violence. It sucks that Cyberpunk 2077's edgelord marketing has worked so well. As if they're in lockstep with one another, because they are. You know, we figured this out a long time ago. We've been doing these kinds of videos for about 3 years now. And I'll tell you, the vast majority of the pushback and problems and possible trolling that we get actually comes from journalists working in, you know, on comic book sites, working, you know, at anime sites, working for video game sites or whatever. You know, video games obviously are the biggest platform right now, you know, and there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money changing hands. And as you know, we've talked about before, we're seeing a lot of these websites get shut down. We're seeing them lay people off. You know, BuzzFeed's laying people off. Was it Waypoint? Was one of these sites that get rolled into their parent company. I think we're going to see the end of Polygon pretty soon. Actually, I don't think they're going to be able to survive much longer because the money's running out and people don't trust them. They don't trust gaming journalists anymore because it used to be that they were one of us. And they're not us anymore. They've created their own little elitist clique, and they're gatekeeping for all their cries about gamers trying to gatekeep the gaming industry. They're the ones who are actually gatekeeping the gaming industry, just like comic book journalists are helping to gatekeep the comic book industry, writing hit pieces to help their friends in the comic book industry. And I used to think it was about politics. I really used to think it was about politics, and I don't think I believe that anymore. I think it is to some extent because that's an easy scapegoat. You know, oh, it's about politics. They're Trump supporters. We don't like them. Oh, they're against trans people. We don't like these people. No, I think it's about fear. And this situation with Cyberpunk rips the damn mask off pretty quick. And it shows how afraid these journalists are of influencers because they're bashing influencers. We talked about in the video we did yesterday. They're mad that influencers got to play and promote Cyberpunk over their media outlets when those media outlets spent the last 2 or 3 years taking a steaming shit on this game and the people working on this game. Every opportunity. It's kind of like what happened with Joker, where the media was so hostile toward this movie that Warner Brothers basically told them to go lay down. They wouldn't let them ask questions on the red carpet. They wouldn't give interviews anymore because they tried to ambush Joaquin Phoenix. And that's what's going on here because it's changing. You know, I think these studios need to realize that the real gamers, the hardcore gamers, aren't going to Polygon. They're not. If they are, they're going for a laugh. You know, they're going to other sites. They're talking amongst themselves. They're going to YouTube. They trust YouTubers. Now, regardless of what you think of Jeremy Hambley, again, I don't know him. I've watched some of his videos off and on throughout the years. He's got a big platform. You know, he's got a big platform, and if he says something like this, it's going to ruffle some feathers. But, you know, to actually tag in YouTube and ask for him to be pulled off of YouTube, and it's not about this one reviewer, I don't think. I think they've tried on multiple occasions to take him down because a lot of hardcore gamers listen to him. And you know, I'm seeing a word I haven't seen in a long time come up in regards to Cyberpunk, and that's Gamergate. We talked about that yesterday, that, you know, there was a journalist out there saying, hey, get this Gamergate shit out of here. Like, what? Do you want Gamergate to come back? Do you want it to come back so your news outlets get hits and you get ad revenue and you can keep your job? I mean, honestly, I would tell any games journalist to get the hell off of whatever website you're working for, because chances are it's going to get shut down in the not too distant future. All these digital media outlets are imploding. People don't trust them. They don't trust them anymore. Why are influencers getting packages? Because legit influencers are still one of us. These games journalists, they used to be. I mean, I remember reading EGM back in the day, you know, Ed Harris and all those guys, and it's not the same. You know, they used to be fans. They talk about how, well, we're fans, influencers are fake. It's like, no. Fan press is what started the comic book websites. It's what started the video game magazines. It's what started, you know, the anime forums and all that. And it has become a clique. It's become kind of a cult, you know, a hive mind. It's really scary. And again, most of the problems that we have in our channel, it's not from randos who find our videos and don't like our videos. Most of the problems actually come from journalists, you know, who are pissed off that we exist because we exist outside of this cushy little system they set up for themselves. So they try to find ways to trick YouTubers into saying stupid shit, or they, you know, false flag videos. We've seen that before. And this is just a whole new low. I mean, actually tagging in the head of YouTube Gaming to try to get the quartering deplatformed because he pointed out that this woman apparently didn't even play the game and she gave it a bad review. And we see this time and time again. Look at IGN. How many plagiarized reviews, plagiarized videos has IGN run? You know, they're content farms. They're not really vetting the content a lot of times, I don't think. I mean, what the hell? So Sophia Norwitz is talking about how for well over 2 years, activists disguised as journalists, we've been saying this, disguised as journalists have been heaping unjust criticism on CD Projekt Red, most well known for Witcher 3, a title which itself was thrown into controversy when critics complained it didn't feature enough black people. The dev team has constantly fallen under the ire of so-called activists or jacktivists for perceived social justice slights, the most prevalent of which are baseless accusations of transphobia. So this began all the way back in 2018 when the CDPR Twitter account jokingly replied to someone by asking them if they had just assumed their gender, and they had to apologize. They tried to cancel them. Fast forward to this week where reviews of the game are finally coming out and the media's petulant cry bullies are once again using their platform to throw a tantrum. Again, I want to point out that Sophia is trans. Sophia, so you have to listen to Sophia, right? Because she's trans? I don't know. An op-ed on website thegamer.com writes that Cyberpunk 2077 will lead to trans people getting killed. Comic Book Resources echoes the sentiment by saying it's creating an atmosphere of violence toward the trans community. Meanwhile, actual reviews of the game aren't much better, with GameSpot, Vice, The Verge, Polygon, RPG Site, The Washington Post, and all others lamenting how the game handles trans people. Because what they do is they get one whiff of controversy and they run with it. We saw this with Comicsgate. Like, it was lockstep. You would have the same writers going to multiple outlets and writing variations of their articles for multiple outlets to get it to rank in Google News because they know how to play the game. They know whatever they put out there, it's going to get ranked higher as a news article on a vetted site than some rando's blog. But what gets ranked above the news articles now in Google is YouTube. YouTube videos come up first, then the news. So they're starting to lose ground, and we've seen a lot of these websites try to YouTube, but they can't YouTube because a lot of the people, the personalities they have, are fake as fuck, and nobody wants to watch them. Nobody wants to listen to them. I love this one. Cyberpunk 2077 is dad rock, not new wave. How many hit pieces on this game can they write? I mean, this is all coming from Polygon. The grievances bring up a lack of non-binary pronoun options, a lack of significant trans characters, and a lack of trans politicizing. Last point being particularly eye-opening as Kotaku straight up complains it doesn't feel as if the developers want to specifically address queerness and transness, a blatant admittance that what the gaming press seeks is affirmative propaganda. They don't care if the game's good. That's it. They don't care if the game's good. They want activism. This is comics too. The complaints aren't like, well, the art's not very good. The dialogue is wonky. It's usually like, not enough LGBTQ black people. Fail. Even the Polygon review, which spends the first 7 paragraphs focusing on trans issues, still somehow manages to spin the presentation of a trans flag within the game as a bad thing. Representation, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Being that I'm not going to say the word, being that she is trans herself, I take issue with all of this. There's no single entity more significantly harmful to the widespread acceptance of trans people than the overly woke crowd. Yeah, we have good friends that are trans, and we talk about this stuff because it needs to be talked about. And it's almost like, unfortunately, trans people aren't real people. They're props that need defending. You know, they're not capable of having their own opinions, their own political beliefs, their own religious beliefs, whatnot, like any other person on the planet. And we see this a lot, time and time again. A lot of the people that are, you know, white knighting for minorities tend to be some of the most bigoted, hateful people. You know, when you really start to pick it apart, you realize that like they feel the need to have to protect a minority or whatever because they think those people are weak. They think they're subhuman. They think they're pets. You know, they have to protect their pets. Look at the situation when I talked about Comicsgate. Look at what happened with Mark Waid. You know, Mark Waid took it upon himself to basically white knight for all of these minorities in the comic book industry. And it was almost like, dude, you know, that's actually kind of insulting. Did they ask you to, or did you just take it upon yourself? And why do you get to be the de facto voice of the comic book industry? You know, why can't these other people voice their own opinions? You know, it's kind of insulting, but that's how this works. Really, and again, I think all of this is a ruse. I think this is all about power. This is all about control. It's all about fear. It's fear that these journalists are losing their grasp on the gaming industry. Because, you know, I mean, for years it's been, you know, IGN says 9 out of 10. GameSpot says this. Toonami Tom said whatever. And you look at The Last of Us Part 2. Critically acclaimed game that a lot of people fucking hated for a variety of reasons. It was like the last Jedi of video games. And we're having another situation like that. If The Last of Us Part 2 is the last Jedi of video games, then Cyberpunk is going to be the Joker of video games. And it's going to be a wake-up call that a lot of these media outlets don't speak for the fans. They're activists first, gamers second. And they don't have your best interest in mind. They don't have your studio's best interest in mind. They don't have, hell, the companies they work for, the publishers they work for, they don't have their best interest in mind. All they care about is getting their views out there and having as many people as possible read them and getting as many upvotes as they can on Twitter, because a lot of these people only work for like $5 to $15 an article. It's fucking pathetic. I know CBR pays very, very low. They pay very, very little. So they shit out the most controversial shit they can, or they just spout off on their political beliefs because they're not really getting paid enough to be a real journalist. They don't give a shit. And it's all, you know, about content farming. I mean, how many articles on this damn game can Polygon write? You know, they got to get the views. That's what this is. And they're losing. They are losing. This is why they were stepped over. And they went to influencers. Not that all influencers are perfect, but you're more likely to find a legit gamer with legit opinions on YouTube, you know, running their own blog than you will at one of these corporate-owned media shill sites. Because, you know, EGM of the past is long gone. It hasn't been that way for years. It hasn't been fan press for years. The actual fan press is YouTube, independent bloggers, independent voices, legit voices. And that's it. You know, the rest of you, you've lost credibility. Nobody listens to you anymore. And you did it to yourselves. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk to you guys later.